Two. Hey, everybody. How's it going? It is Annette The Peacemaker from the Yang Gang Report Live. And today is election day. Oh, my goodness. It's so exciting. So I'm just going to jump right in and let you know who I've got on the screen with me. Well, Jacqueline from 99 Reasons Why, she will be joining us in a minute. She had to step away from the camera for a second. And then below Jacqueline, we've got our Yang Gang sister, Mel Blossom. She is down in Puebla, Mexico today. And then below me, I'll say, because the directions are confusing, huh? We have got our dear friend Suzanne Hugg, who is running for House Senate, did you say, in Arizona?
So Arizona State House of Representatives in Legislative District 25.
Yes. There we go. And so I also live in Arizona, but I was not able to vote for her because I live too far away. So anyway, Suzanne just jumped in here and was giving us an update on how her election process is going, because the people in her district are voting today for her campaign. So Suzanne, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona in my district, we've been voting since October 7th. So,
oh, wow.
It is election season, and today is the last day.
Well, so how's it been going, though? How do you feel like it's going?
I think it's going really well. I'm very hopeful. It's interesting because we're looking at the return numbers come in, and it's based on party registration. But I've talked to so many, specifically Republicans, who have crossed party lines this year, that I think we're going to see some real change in Arizona. And if people don't know yet, in Arizona, Mesa is part of Maricopa County. It's the fourth largest county in the U.S., and it is pivotal to the way that Arizona will go for the presidential election. Arizona carries, I think it's either 10 or 11 electoral votes, which can make a big difference. So we are considered a battleground state, and our state legislature here has been controlled by the GOP since 1966. So it's been a long time, and we are 2 seats away in the House from actually flipping control to Democratic control for the first time in a long time. So it is a very exciting time in Arizona, and I'm hoping to be one of those seats, but there are a lot of close races, so we can have some really great victories up and down the ballot here.
That's awesome. So is it my turn to ask questions?
Excellent. Yes, you
can
ask questions now.
Thank you, because my curiosity is going crazy. So what are your issues that you're most passionate about? Can we hear your spiel and why we should vote for you if we were there?
Absolutely. I am happy to do my 2-minute stump speech.
Okay, I want to hear it.
So, for anybody who does not know me, I am Suzanne Hugg. I am a small business owner, mother of 2 kids currently in elementary school and doing distance learning from home. I have a degree in economics, and I believe we need change in this country. My family background is I'm biracial, Japanese American on one side, Italian American on the other. And during World War II, my father was a toddler, and him and his entire family, our entire family of American citizens, were scooped up and put into internment camps. We lost everything. And it's a shame for our nation that we did that to people. But it's something I carry in my heart and my family, that we know that this great nation can do wonderful things, but we also know that leadership matters, because one executive order changed our life. When I saw Trump elected, it was terrifying on so many ways, not only because he supported the concept of those camps, but because he has blatantly ignored our democratic principles as a country. And he's really been robbing what we hold dear. In Arizona, with the GOP Speaker of the House, that's who I'm running against because I see a lot of those same traits. He hasn't been accountable or even listened to the constituents here, right? Me, my neighbors, for a long time. And I think there's such a disconnect from our representatives to what we're talking about at our kitchen tables. You know, what my worries are when I send my kids off to school and now when I'm working with them at home. And as a business owner, I saw that we need to do better for our local economies. You know, we really need to help raise people up, and that if you've got a good idea, you should have a shot at starting a business. But to do that, we need healthcare for people. And to give people a chance to take a choice, you know, in what they do, we need a basic income. And those are some of the principles that got me to run. But it's also one of the reasons that I'm part of the Yang Gang, a proud member. In May, I was actually endorsed by Andrew Yang and Humanity Forward. So that's how I got to meet some of these wonderful people like Annette. And, you know, I think this is a movement that's going to last beyond this election because people are starting to see that the economy has changed, right? The gig workers are becoming a larger and larger part, and our old structures are antiquated. They don't work anymore. So we really need people who are willing and able to be flexible and thoughtful and creative and move beyond party politics and just get stuff done. And as a mom, that's what I do, right? I fix up messes.
Yeah.
You know, and I have to be practical for my own bills, for my own business, and that's what I want to do for my neighbors now.
Wow. So what?
Yay!
Yeah,
I would have voted for
that's
you
a
if I
good
could.
speech. Yeah, for sure. That's really good. So what made you decide that you wanted to run? Like that's, I mean, we all think these things, but to actually dive in there and do it is a little, I mean, that's intimidating. How did you, what led you that way?
You know, 2018, I got really involved in volunteering. And I
Yeah.
think, like a lot of people, started phone banking, right? Knocking doors. And honestly, there are two things. First, education in my area. Arizona is like between 48th and 51st in education, depending on what you're looking at. Teacher pay, school buildings, just budget per student, all of it. And I have two kids in public school. And I saw what they were going through and what their classmates were going through. I attended the PTO meetings. And out of a class of, 28 kids, because there's too many kids in a class, the teachers would tell me that every year, 5 or 6 kids would show up with nothing. Just nothing. And the parents here, we have to provide the paper and the pencils and all of the stuff because our schools are underfunded. And so teachers are going and paying for those things out of their own paycheck. I had one teacher tell me she takes home, her take home pay is $12,000 a year. And that's ridiculous. So really learning about what's happening with education in Arizona was one of my big motivating factors. I was a Cub Scout mom too, so I have like all these kids I love and I care about. I'm like, I can't just try and fix this for my family. I need to do something bigger.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that I had a corporate job for years. I was in insurance. I was actually an underwriting and marketing development manager. I did automation. I was automating our underwriting process. And I saw the way that things were going. And I know that people needed a fair shake and we really need to reevaluate our economy. So education, economic justice, and making sure people can vote. I mean, those are my big issues, really.
Those are
Cool.
definitely,
Yeah.
those are good
There
ones.
was a point where I just couldn't not run because I was like, I've got to step up. And we didn't really have a candidate in this area. I talked about it and people were like, yes, please. We've never had a business owner run. I'm a very unusual candidate for a Democratic candidate because I do come from a business perspective. My degree is in economics. I have an insurance background. But all of those things have led me to understand that the Democratic Party is the one that's actually going to help us move forward.
I like the background in economics on top of it because then you understand, like, we need to help people, but we don't have unlimited resources. So how are we going to redistribute things so that people are getting what they need? But obviously we can't bankrupt the country, which is something that the Democratic Party gets accused of wanting to do a lot.
Yeah, I don't even think it's redistribute necessarily, but just how do we tax appropriately in a way that then improves the human condition? And that's why I talk about human-centered capital, and people say, well, like, that's an oxymoron. I'm like, no, instead of putting profit first as your main motivator, you put the human condition and people's well-being first, and then you figure out how to do well with that in the center of it. And that's something with my own business where I really think about, how do I build a healthy community? So.
What are some practical steps that you see that like the government could take right away that could start doing that?
I mean, UBI is a big one right there. Yeah, we need to start taxing companies like Amazon. And I know that's something people say, but like, really, we need to actually start doing that. When I heard that Trump had paid, $750 in taxes to the US, but thousands of tax dollars to the China, I was like, that's ridiculous, right? Money should be going into our economy, flowing to our people, helping to build up our crumbling infrastructure. Right? We need more like charging stations for electric cars and solar panels on all of our schools and libraries and government buildings. So there's a lot of those kind of immediate things where we do need to tax more appropriately, not on individuals, but I think we need to look at companies.
And churches. Yeah. I think we should tax churches as well.
Well, if they're acting like companies.
Well, they sure are. I mean, you look at those big mega churches or like Joel Osteen or whatever. Come on now. That is definitely a business. Yeah. I get a little fired up about that. I definitely
always want to dig into government waste. I always think when I hear things like we paid $30,000 so Melania could get a haircut, and I'm like, okay, well, that's two people who are on Social Security for an entire year that we just spent on a haircut. Like, things like that are getting me a little bit like, maybe we don't have to really change that much. If we would just look at where it's going, that we could be smarter about it.
Well, and I think you see that with the stimulus deal that was done back in April, May, there was this like little tiny percentage that was given to local schools, which, as we know, schools are what help people be able to go to job and take care of kids. And in my area, like 50% of kids are on some kind of food assistance through their school. So this is genuinely taking care of people.
Right.
And this little tiny bit of the stimulus went to schools. And then there was all this money going to the airlines. And I'm like, it's not that we don't have enough money. It's about the priorities.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. And I think that like reallocating, like Yang says, we already have all the money. The money's there. It just needs to be allocated properly. And the what do you call it? The priorities need to be reordered.
Yeah. A budget is a bill of ethics,
Yep. Our friend Rhea is about to join us. Looks like it's ladies' night here at the YGRL. Everybody, this is Rhea. And Rhea, this is everybody. Thank goodness for name tags, so I don't have to go through all of that. But she's been watching us live for a little while now and wanted to jump in. So welcome.
Great.
Cute new headphones there, honey. I like them.
We have an interesting sound loop, so I got introduced twice from the sound of it.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Oh, is there an echo?
A little bit, but no wig.
I have to say, I was just reading the comments, and I love Allie Sears. No more lollygagging. We need to get moving forward. I'm like, yes, forward.
Yeah.
That's people will ask me where I'm at, like on the political spectrum. I'm like, I'm forward. We don't have time for this. We need to like get some stuff done.
Right.
Oh, I see the comments now. Oh, there are more people. Yeah, for sure. So how are you feeling, Susan? Are you excited? Suzanne, sorry.
I feel like a bride where like I'm super excited, but also I want to puke sometimes. So right there, right? If anybody's gotten married, you know that thing when you're like standing behind the doors and you hear the music play and you're not sure what you're gonna do, like if you're gonna just cry or melt or sweat or whatever. That.
Yeah.
I cried it when I got married. I did.
I was going to get married like a week ago, but we canceled to hold off for a year.
Oh.
How long have you been campaigning?
Aw.
I first filed my candidacy February 19th, 2019. I've been campaigning for almost 2 years.
So this is a
That is
big
longer
deal.
than I dated my husband before we got engaged. I,
Well, thank
I've been
you.
married for 15 years now, but we got engaged after like 6 months. Like he was the one.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's a long time. That's a long time to find out. Like, and now here's the day, and you're gonna find out. I don't want to say if it paid off or not, because of course it paid off regardless, right? I mean, you can't really lose. You put your heart out there, you did your best. No matter what happens, like you still won, like
And I have the Yang Gang. So
exactly, exactly.
We're all going to work that law of attraction. We're going to work the law of attraction, and Suzanne has already won in our universe, right?
We're also going to work another law. I'm doing the gathering of forensics data, hidden data. Forensics data gathering is kind of my forte, and that's going into the scorecard project for the Humanity First group. That is going to be made available. All that information, because the problem is, as I see, is in this country for far too long, a lot of the truths have been obscured and quashed, so that people didn't have a full amount of information to make any kind of decisions on, policy-wise, voting-wise, whatever-wise. And if we're armed with the truth, and we arm Yang Gang candidates with the truth, that's your bulletproof vest, that's your shield, that's your sword. Because the truth is always the truth. Numbers don't lie, but liars do have a bad habit of manipulating numbers, and they do it by quashing, data. And my forte is digging up some of that hidden data.
This is something I've noticed a lot in my recent area activity. Today, I took a 11-second video. An 11-second video that spoke about something in my area. I live in this little town. It's kind of like a mediocre attempt at a city that says it's a city, but it's not quite fully there. Hey!
Hey!
Hey, it's not all girls' night. We finally get something interesting here. I'm kidding. What I was saying is I took an 11-second video today that was something I've been down here since end of 2013, something like that. I know. I have a rescue kitten who's being annoying because I'm trying to not have her wake up Devin. And it was of one of our polling places. One of the polling places that anytime we go vote, we never see any turnout. It's either whenever we go, there's no one there, there's very slow line, there's nothing really happening. We usually have no wait. For the first time today, we actually had a wait. And of the 3 polling places, only one of which I got a video of, you saw a line going almost the entire length of the church it was in. And I have never seen it in this area ever in the 7-8 years I've been here. And the fact that, one, we have had this fantastic turnout. I think in our area, we've had more people just go to vote than we have in probably ever, early founding ever. And I mean, if anyone wants to correct me on that, go right ahead. I'm not trying to use that as a scientific means or whatever.
Rhea, I remember. Oh, go ahead. You lived in Alabama, right?
Yes.
So are there blue parts, or is it all red?
There are definitely blue parts in my area and surrounding areas. It's just we are so overwhelmed by the red that we get swallowed up. One of my favorite things is...
well, that makes sense.
Well, one of my favorite things is that my area kind of is more of a interesting shade of violet. There's enough blue there, but not as much to really erase the blurred lines. Because I mean, everywhere it's blurred lines, and that's going to be a realistic thing that people need to start remembering. Is that yes, we're all blue, we're all red. There's going to be the vision of how we see, but it's not that simple. And to simplify it to that is, in a way, trying to disguise the truth, and that's what a lot of
Right.
politicians I notice
Yeah,
use. And
yeah.
this is leading on from what Jacqueline was talking about just a second ago. There's so much more interest in understanding voting, understanding policies. Like when I read through some of the policies that they had thrown onto today's ballot for my area alone, thank God I freaking know what I'm reading, because I researched some of this. I studied enough about politics to be able to understand what they're trying to say. But I know that there were some people in my area who were my age who likely this is the first time ever they actually seriously took a look at those and tried to figure out what the hell they meant.
Oh yeah, I have,
so they knew what they were doing.
So much optimism for the new generation right now. I mean, we are so sick of this boomer bull, if you excuse me, that it's like driving us nuts. And you know, Erica Rhodes, she's actually running in a district like near the valley, near where I used to live, and she did a Zoom meeting with like all of her students, and I'm telling you, so intelligent, so civil. Some of those 13 and 14-year-olds, way more intelligent and way more civil than these geriatric jackasses that we have right now. Sorry if it offended people, but I just needed to use that because I'm just like
gotta give the boomers credit for the hippies. Like they started
right.
Give them
but it's
True.
no, I'm not stereotyping all. I'm just saying that the main ones that we have in power right now, they disgust me. They disgust me. Not all of them, but I mean, like, I'm so sick of them.
We gotta give. I feel so bad. Everybody picks on them.
Problem for Xers like myself before millennials like Ariel was born, and it's like Gen X was such a small generation that you know.
Hey.
Yeah,
a small generation with a
friends.
big mouth.
I need to run to another meeting. Thank you so much for having me on, though. It was great to chat with you.
Thank you very much. Yes,
have a
you
wonderful
too. Good
night.
luck in your race.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Of course. You're welcome. Bye.
Wow, she skedaddled out of there fast.
Oh,
she said she only had about 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm currently killing time while I wait for my new computer that's coming in finally. So I'm just like, hey, I can hop in and do this while I wait. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So is anybody? I have not looked at any like our election results starting to come in today.
I was literally about to Google it. Before I saw them. Okay.
By the way, I have some good news for you guys.
Okay, what?
So anyway, there's this guy on YouTube. His name is CoffeeZilla, and he does a lot of like scam busting of like fake online gurus and like all these fake promises and stuff, and all these people want to get you to swipe your credit card. He has about an audience of like 184,000 subscribers. And I managed to call into his show under the pseudonym Yang Gang. And at first, like, the audience was a bit like hesitant about the whole UBI idea. But one of his co-hosts, who's like of Indian descent, but he lives in Canada, was kind of like agreeing with me. And then, because the Canadians, they got $2,000 a month, CERB. It wasn't like a true UBI, but it was kind of connected to unemployment. So I got an interview with that guy on my channel. And then the next time I came back on his channel, I did this like little rap about the job market, and it got a lot of positive responses. So like his some in his audience, like they are open and receptive. So I think I can. If any of you are interested, I can put that in and I can clip the time codes of when I got a chance to speak on it. I think because I think it's important we don't stick in our echo chambers. We like expand, because a lot of reasons that I told them why we're seeing all this proliferation of these like fake gurus and scammers and all these people who want you to like trade Forex or buy a $3,000 online course is because of the economic desperation. So anyway, I just said my piece.
Yeah, pro traders are actually sitting out and waiting until after the election. We're actually taking the week off. We're, pardon my French, fucking off. Because, you know, and that's why I'm devoting this week to the other work I'm doing with the American Scorecard Project with all the data, with exhuming the hidden data, because that is going to be our bulletproof vest moving forward. So that
the nuances.
Nobody can say, nobody can come along and try to BS everybody on of what went down, what policies were implemented, how and what the thought processes were behind those policies that were bad, that didn't work out so great, so that we don't screw up and repeat the same mistakes. What we want to do is we obviously want to build something that's 100% better than what we've got now, which is a mess.
Yeah. Rhea, you have something?
As if everybody
yes. All right. So according to Politico, we have no actual election results coming in just yet. They are still holding off on reporting.
It's early yet.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's still pretty early.
I don't know what's going to happen in Wisconsin because we screwed up in 2016, but now I think everybody in Milwaukee and Madison are going to come back out. I think they were like, "Oh, we did need to vote." So I'm just like, which way is my home state going to go?
I think they just thought Hillary had it in the bag back in 2016, so they got complacent, and then that's what happened. But and she was like extremely unlikable too. Oh, hey, Quince is here.
Hey,
Yay! Dr. Quintus is here.
My other math buddy who does operations research and combinatorial analysis. We got to talk sometime. We got to talk numbers sometime.
Yes, I love the numbers.
I love numbers.
One of the
okay.
Speaking of numbers, I saw something that had me rolling this morning. Someone had there was a research simulation that was done running the potential results of today's election 100 times, and it cracked me up. According to that simulation run, only 10% chance of Trump winning, and it had me cracking up. I was dying because I'm like, even the robots hate him.
What's kind of scary is, I mean, that's how there's always been like two types of things that could happen. Like one is something very close that Trump wins, or something that where Biden wins, but by a lot. Those have always been two major scenarios that have been based off of like the polling and stuff. And what's scary is 10% is still 10%. I mean, it could still happen.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
But the thing is, we don't know. It's like I mean, I'm pretty sure that both the campaigns and all the news people, they know which of the two major scenarios we're in, but they're not going to talk about it or begin to talk about it until about like an hour and a half from now.
The news people are just such attention whores. It's like that's all it really is. It's all about attention, not so much about like what's right or wrong, what's accurate or inaccurate. It's just like, how can we get, as much engagement as possible to like hype as much up, facts and truths and stuff. Who cares?
It's like in a way they can't tell us, right? I mean, it's right. Like, but you get into your point though. It's like, yeah, it's like it doesn't even matter. They could know that it's over, but they will not.
But they want to keep you like okay. There's a reason why. Like I see a lot of news anchors doing this. Coming up, like how this woman survived the shark attack. And then it's like okay, then they talk about like fridges or like the weather, and then the last thing is that thing when they said coming up, they leave it toward the end after like 3 more commercials. They're doing it on purpose, and then it's not even that much of an interesting story. Oh yeah, the shark got in within like 6 feet of her, but then it ran away, and then we're done. It's like it's all about just like getting that hook, and then like it's not even that interesting in the end.
I mean, it was kind of like I was watching with friends the 2008 presidential election, and we could tell, like, just all sitting around, based on how the Electoral College worked, we could see that Obama was about to become the president, like in about 30 minutes. But and I'm sure they saw it too, but they waited until they, so they had the graphics and they could say, oh,
Right.
the president-elect, And so the same thing, I think the way this thing has been playing out in the States.
I think like
tell us.
Trump would have had like a 60% chance of winning if it wasn't for this pandemic. But this pandemic basically showed the emperor had no clothes. I mean, it's like sealed his fate in terms of like, I thought, back when I thought like Trump was going to be a good thing back in 2015 because he wasn't attached to the establishment, my bad. But like, I thought like if worse comes to worse, Trump will just say, I'm rich. I'm just going to give people money because I'm a narcissist and I want them to love me. So I'm just going to throw money at people because I'm narcissistic and I want their love. He didn't do that. He's an idiot.
Well, actually, it's a good point. It's like, I mean, if he was like what's the word for it? If he was like a true populist, he might have been more popular. You know what I mean? Like,
right? Yeah.
Just like paying attention to what people want rather than just sort of
his ego.
Yeah, his ego driven, or he just sort of just do completely what the Republicans wanted, as opposed to just trying to do infrastructure, which he actually did care about.
Right. He wasn't that populist that people thought he was. That's for sure. I mean, it's all bluster and rhetoric and none of the things. And then he kind of fell in line with what the Republican establishment basically wanted. He basically became a bitch of the Republican establishment, but just like pretended that he's this like, he's his own man, which is not true. Like McConnell kind of has him on a leash, if we're like telling the truth over here.
This is how I imagine Trump just turned into.
Keep yapping, man.
That's pretty much what he turned into when you look at that.
Right, just a yap machine.
It's not just that he was the bitch of the Republican Party. He was actually the bitch of the theonomy movement, which is a subset of the Republican Party, had seized over a period of, starting since the 80s, the levers of control in all levels of government. They started out on the local level, and then the state level, and then the federal levels, and now it's like, and if you want an example of what I'm talking about, it's adherence to a very warped version of Christianity. The prosperity gospel falls in line with that. Joel Osteen falls in line with that. Ted Cruz, they believe that they want to transfer what they wanted to do is transfer the money from the wicked to themselves, while they're deciding who is quote wicked biblically.
So
that's form of witch hunt.
But like when Obama was like the president, did they lose some of their power, or it didn't matter? It's just like
no, because they have a lobby on C Street, and an author named Jeff Shartlett wrote a couple of exposing books about this many years ago.
So, but if we get like a Democrat's House, like in Senate and presidency, they're still kind of like,
Oh, okay. Essentially, what happens is they turn it into even more of a witch hunt and find any kind of little dirt that they can do and turn it into a huge deal.
Got it. Yeah.
There were Democrats like Bart Stupak who were involved and who were part of that theonomy movement, part of that who were sympathetic to the form of fascism. But they actually have a very powerful lobbying group in Washington. It's not a matter of party per se. It's a matter of the fact that they derived a lot of their wealth through the tax exempt, and this is what Annette touched on, the tax exempt status that churches and religious organizations enjoy. But it's not all religious organizations. It's like they definitely get the lion's share preferential treatment in that regard, and that has to do with the fact that they've used their majority privilege status in the country. They overtook the evangelical Christians and sought safe haven in the evangelical community because the evangelicals believe that they have to kind of put up with, even their most obnoxious fellow Christians, because that's the biblical thing to do. So they weren't able to expel these shit weasels out of their, you know, organization.
Shit.
They took control. They have had a lot. These are people that have a lot of money, and what their end game is, their version of God is a Handmaid's Tale, something that would make the Handmaid's Tale look like an ice cream party. And they are actively putting people in positions like Judge Barrett to help facilitate this. What they want to do is they want to bring about Armageddon and bring about massive suffering through transferring wealth from the wicked to themselves and causing, all these problems like they did with the pandemic, not wearing masks, that AstroTurf movement protesting the masks and the shutdowns. And their end game is to do that because they literally believe that they need to make America a, quote, Christian nation to their idea of what a Christian nation should be. A lot of Christians don't agree with them, but we're talking about the theonomy movement here.
Excuse me, can we at this point talk about the FBI for a little bit?
Let me finish my thing. This is what you're dealing with. If you want to clean house, what we've got to do, and this is why the data on the scorecard project is key. What we got to do is tell the truth frequently and loudly and not stop, because this is what the theonomy movement has been responsible for, in large part, for funding the machinations for obscuring the truth. Their end game is they want to bring about Armageddon because they think that's going to bring back God. You take that for what it's worth. I would suggest reading Jeff Shartlett's materials on this. But yes, Quintus, the FBI is tied in with that too. So take it from there.
Well, no, I guess the part that's getting me is like, you notice like the FBI has been stepping forward, whether it's been in terms of like the caravan in Texas. Like the FBI is like, hey, we're looking into that, and there's like these robocalls like telling people to stay home. The FBI steps forward, hey, we're on this. It almost seems as if Trump is actually set. Trump has listed the FBI and the CIA director as people he intends to fire if he gets reelected. And so I think there is some kind of tension or literally like war going on beneath the surface between like Trump and some of the intelligence services.
I mean, at this point, we can call them stupidity services because they're not doing a great job.
I think actually they're doing a very good job. And yeah, I think they are doing a very good job. Yeah, they are. I mean, it's like, there's certain subtle things that we don't think about enough because there's been so much noise. Just think, before the election of 2016, there were briefings to both Clinton and Trump about the Russians interfering. They both got that report in August. So what do you think that they thought when Trump got up in a debate in October and said, Russia, what does Russia have to do with this? What do you think they thought? Something's up with this dude. Do y'all remember when Comey was fired? Actually, do you remember what happened the day after Comey was fired?
No.
Not anymore. I think I know what you're about to touch on.
The president invited the Russians into the Oval Office.
Yeah, I remember that. And I was like, okay, excuse you.
And celebrated kicking off Comey. So I think we've been in crisis since he's been elected.
We've been in crisis for a while before that, but yeah.
No, but the nature of this crisis, like we actually have someone who's president who's either been somewhere between useful idiot to aged compromised or something like that. And so I think we've been dealing with that like behind the scenes.
Useful idiot. He's a useful idiot who wishes he could be as powerful as Hitler, but doesn't have Hitler's brains.
Yeah.
Straight up. That's what you're dealing
with. Or has the following of actual intelligent cult followers, because that's pretty much what the whole Trump following is. It's essentially defined as a cult now, if I recall. I think Devin and I were just talking about that earlier today.
What's weird about that is, like, at least, through I guess they have Facebook and things. I've actually seen instances of Facebook friends who have friends who are Trump supporters, and they're referring to when they're talking about Trump and race, and they're actually people who believe that Trump is not racist, and I'm just like,
Or
know,
what universe are you living in? He is very clearly racist. He's racist.
Exactly.
He's classist. He's
Racism.
homophobic.
Okay, I have a question.
Racism.
I think here's my theory.
Hmm.
All right, I'll put myself out here like this. So I think he's a narcissist, and I don't think he cares what race you are, if you're going to feed his ego or you're going to give him money. What I do think is that he is so irresponsible with sparking racism and being so like he doesn't know. Whether he knows or not, he doesn't care, and he's empowering them, and that I would say is equal danger. I mean, there's no way around that. That it's just as equally as threatening. But I am somebody that would say I don't know that I think he's racist. I think he's a narcissist, and if you have enough money or power, he's not going to care that you don't have the same skin color.
Yeah, look at Ice Cube. I mean, like, and Lil Wayne and stuff. Yeah.
If you kiss his ass, he doesn't care.
Doesn't
essentially,
matter.
is what I see.
Right. Yeah.
I never
That's
fight too much. Like, I don't care if you think Trump
Excuse
is
my
racist.
language. I'm sorry.
Let me put it this way:
Same.
there are people believing him at face value. Not just that he's neutral, but that he's good for black people.
Right.
That's
No.
where some of them are
Well,
coming from.
what do you have
Like,
to say about Candace Owens? You know, she's like crazy black Republican, Brexit movement.
Yeah.
George Floyd was a bad guy anyway, so who cares? I mean, there. I see a lot of them out there, like a lot. Like
I'm
even
fascinated with her.
in my own district, there's like a Jamaican heritage guy. His name is Errol Weber, and he's running for Congress under Trump's platform against he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell, but I mean, still,
it's an interesting phenomenon I've noticed that's going around lately, because I mean there are things that I've noticed that worry me as just being a woman. I mean, yes, I'm a white woman, but I'm also a woman, and I see all of these women who are in support of these policies that take us back potentially decades, and I'm going, you look at me. I don't fit by norms, and that's already a fight enough. And that's because I think things like hair color, piercings, tattoos, they have no hold over someone's ability to work. And I think it actually shows that they are more dedicated to a life choice. It shows that they can sit and deal with something tedious for hours.
Well, I mean that's the ability of the UBI, basically. I mean, like your value not attached to work, because when your value is attached to work, your work ethic and your morals don't matter. What matters is like, are you willing to toe my line to get work? You may have like the best work ethic and be a hard worker, but if they're not willing to like get you past the interview process, doesn't matter.
But the thing that I've noticed a lot in the hiring process lately, because I've been hunting around for a little bit of extra work, and it's essentially come down to I'm going to have to see my own work or create it, which I'm a creator. I'm an artist. That's something I am lucky enough to be able to do. It's not going to be as successful as getting a dedicated job or real job or whatever the hell that is now, because real jobs are dying, by the second, because, automation. We all know that. The rant another day. But the thing that I've noticed when it comes to interviewing or even getting into the process of potentially being hired, because there's not even really interviews anymore, is that we are expected to take any kind of BS that our employer can throw at us and just expect it to just thank you, sir.
Not to mention how I'm gonna say this because screw them, they're idiots. Not to mention like how incredibly stupid some of these questions are. So what's
the point of a resume that is already dictated of everything I've done, and you're making me put it all in the same paperwork that you are providing me and forcing me to fill in?
And then they say attach your resume and fill out this application. You idiot! just streamline it, either one or the other, and then like all these hoops are so dumb. Like
Right.
I applied, yeah, for a seasonal again, and then they said like, oh, give us this and give us that. I'm like, dumbass. I worked there before and I already have like I gave your store 2 5-star reviews on Google. And is that not enough for you to go by? Go ahead.
The thing that Devin and I both rage against in society right now that's been going on, it wasn't even a major. It was still something that we noticed back before all of this stuff with the election, and 45 is that there's this attitude now of just even being employed, even just trying to get a basic job, which according to even historical documents state that we should be able to have a livable wage. So I'm sorry, livable wage should technically be around $22 an hour, not this $7.50 crap that we've been stuck with for like 20 years. That's, if you look at the documents and look at inflation, that's what we are owed. What the attitude has become is if you aren't willing to take what the job gives you and even have a scrap of self-worth and try to utilize your value via being an actual human being, you're already a problem. This is something that I have dealt with in fast food. I worked at McDonald's for a while. And one of the things was if I had anything come up, I actually ended up getting a manager fired, or almost fired. She walked away before the investigation ended because I reported it, because I was more valuable than that. One of the things with most minimum wage jobs, especially if you work fast food, is if you're someone who's going to college, they need to work around your school schedule. And because I started the job before I'd gone back to school, one of the things the manager who was running the store I was working in at the time, well, thank you, McDonald's, is she outright refused.
To what?
I had been a model employee for a while until they got rid of my store manager, who treated me well and actually knew how to manage employees and could actually work with people. Because I was open. I was open that I had issues. I was open that I was essentially a caretaker to 2 adult children, basically my father and my then ex boyfriend at the time, and she outright refused. And one of the things is that, well, if you weren't in school before you started working here, I don't have to adjust the schedule because you're going to school now. I'm like, actually, according to this state's legislation, you do, because I am in school. I can't guarantee being able to not be in classes when you decide to schedule me. That is a certain thing that you need to keep up with.
Yeah.
So, and then what essentially happened was I called up the general handlers for our area's franchise, and one of which I am a very close friend with. I will openly say, because he has done me a solid a few times when dealing with it, and I just said, I have given my 2 weeks notice, and here's the reason why, and I want to tell you exactly why. And it turned out about 5 other people had put in 2 weeks notices around the same time. So this woman ended up losing 5 people at my store. And that's a huge jump from the people working there. So, that's a massive loss.
Well, one of the things that I think is going on overall is that, I think I'm going to reference back. There was on Andrew Yang, he had a podcast. He had David Axelrod, who was the strategy person for Obama. And they were talking about like what's going to happen next. And on one hand, the first thing is hopefully defeating Trump, right? But after that, there's an immediate other problem, which is dealing with some of these issues that we're talking about, like the transformation that needs to happen in the world of work. And it's on one hand, it's like Biden, I think he has the skills and the team to actually be able to do it, to do that transition so that we can do something more transformational. He's shown signs of doing that, but there's really no guarantee that he can do that, especially because there are a lot of people who would need these changes the most, who don't believe he can do it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I just want you guys to think of the irony here, which is pretty interesting. So after I lost my seasonal job, my asshole GM said, "Oh, we love you here and you're great here, but like we just don't have the customer traffic right now. You can apply for unemployment, but I'm 99% sure that you won't get it." So then I looked up at a laws, and then I said, "Wait a minute, in California, seasonal employees are eligible for unemployment." Come the pandemic, here's the kicker. I made 4 times as much money I did on that unemployment than I did for the whole season. And he wanted me to come back next season. So I would have worked 4 seasons for 4 years just to get that money that I made on unemployment. That doesn't show you to show that the unemployment was generous. That just goes to show you how far we have fallen as a country. How idiot. And I plan on using every penny of that money to use my voice to speak out against these assholes.
Well, that's exactly what the entire intent of UBI is.
Avalanche on, bro.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's to take your experience of getting more money from unemployment now, because what ended up happening with while you were unemployment is that you were valued as a person more than at the actual job you worked at. That's the thing.
Right.
You got paid your work value without actually having to work, because they value you as a person.
As a person, exactly.
And that's exactly what UBI is supposed to be. And that's why it's important now, considering that even those seasonal jobs and any jobs are failing and falling away
and
in
you know
spades.
What the beautiful part is? It's like, I'm a person. It's like, I don't look for material happiness. I look for more like experiential happiness. Like, I want to get money and like visit people and go on vacations, not buy like a gold chandelier or any shit. It just doesn't interest me. I just don't give a shit. Like, I bought myself a drone and I had a great time. But then I went splurging with some of the money. But after a while, I said, like, you know what? I'm kind of bored of splurging. Like, splurging isn't even that fun. Like, I don't care. I want to do something with my life that's actually meaningful and gives me happiness. I just don't want to take this money and splurge. And I never smoke and I don't drink, and that stuff doesn't even interest me. So you know what? All those people who have that stereotype about people just getting money and wasting it, shove it up your ass, you assholes. Because that happened to me and I didn't feel like that.
Avalanche on, brother. Avalanche.
Yeah.
Well, and that's been
you're not wrong in your critique of the system at all. You know, at all. I've been saying the same thing for about 30 years. Never got listened to, of course, because Gen X, we were outgunned at the voting booth by, the people that were in power. But, now we have the chance to say no more. No more. And we're going to tell the truth. And we're going to tell it every day, and we're going to tell it
unapologetically.
Exactly. No apology. Apology.
Before this pandemic hit, I was depressed because of the loss of my job and because of like all these things that I've seen going on. But then when the pandemic started, but that kind of like that, then everyone was kind of like in the same boat and jobless. I had this new hope that people are going to figure out that this system sucks for them, because they were all comfortable with their jobs, thinking that all of us were jobless. That was a choice and that we were lazy. But when that shifted their reality and I started getting the big bucks, I was like, I thought I like found myself with like a new sense of purpose and like more energy and happier even, which is ironic, but hey, yeah.
Touching on what you just said, Ariel, my mother actually, this is my mother who's currently the reason why I'm not on the streets right now, sent me this fantastic article that is done by a psychologist. I'm going to post it in with the private chat here so and people can use it, called Laziness Doesn't Exist. Laziness isn't real. This is a psychologist and sociologist who has taken into account the study of this economic attitude called laziness for people who are homeless, people who struggle with completing college, people who have just struggles. Like me, I have anxiety and depression. And yes, that is diagnosed. I'm not one of those girls that just says, I'm not doing that. This is a legit thing. I've had therapists even diagnose me, and I've been trying to get into proper treatment options to be able to get it. But due to the pandemic, I can't. So I've been doing a lot of it from home. This talks about how this laziness attitude has taken over workforce and even generational attitudes. I am currently now in a 3-generation argument within my own family. My grandmother is trying to convince my mother to pull her support for me for going to school. She doesn't think that I need to be supported and have the house I'm living in being paid for by my mother, which I'm going to hopefully be buying here in the next few years once I get my credit score improved and have something saved. She doesn't think I should have any of that because she thinks I should do it alone. But my mother, and she thinks that I'm lazy. She thinks I don't want to do the work. She thinks I don't do the work. And that's been a terrorizing fear of mine that I actually only recently talked to my mother about. And that's one of my barriers, as they're called in that article, is a barrier. It is something that stops me from being able to do the things I need to do to thrive. Because that is what being human and living should be, is thriving.
I mean, look, like, here's the bottom line. In our crap schooling system, I'm just going to say it, we don't learn about who we are and what we want out of life. All we have is a stupid career day once a year. That's it. It's all robotic crap like algebra, and you might like Shakespeare, but no one's ever asked me for like Shakespeare after I left high school. How can you explain that 85% of the stuff that we learn, like, we don't retain, and then and we don't even like not to talk about, like, we don't learn about interviews or job searching or any of this, and then it's like, oh, okay, like, it's your fault you don't have what you have right now because of personal responsibility and all this other shit that they talk about.
That's bullshit, Ariel.
The education system, and I think, am I the youngest person here? I'm 26 right now. Am I the youngest person
32.
here? Okay, so I'm like the newer millennial. While my fiance is an elder millennial. He's 10 years my senior. The thing is that there is an obvious generational gap, and we can literally look from my mother's education to my fiance's education to my education.
It's all the same.
No, it's not.
Oh, no?
It's deteriorated even more.
It's gone worse.
There are things that my mother learned that was just basic knowledge. That was something that was a common class. I had to get specialized training in due to a opportunity that I was somehow a part of.
100%.
Like her government class taught all of this stuff on how the government works, and my government class didn't even cover half of what she covered. I learned what I did from government from this program called the NYLC program that I somehow got nominated for and took advantage of because I was lucky enough to have the money to do it.
It should have just been there anyway. The stupid thing is this, and then that ties into the corporations. They've gotten cheaper because, like, a corporation was willing to train you. I kid you not. So I'm working at Best Buy, and then, like, I get on the walkie-talkie, and I'm like, hey, a customer is asking me a question. I really don't know what this thing does. Can anybody help? And then they're like, have you tried Googling on your phone what this thing does?
That's your job. Your job is supposed to tell me what this is because our job is supposed to know what we're supposed to be doing.
I'm like, what the hell? I'm like,
can I make a generational joke and pause this for a minute? I had a
word in for a minute. I wanted to add.
Go ahead. I was just being silly. No, I was just going to be silly.
We're saying, and that is another thing that the schools do not teach and have not taught. At least since when I was a kid, I saw it a little bit in elementary school, but then it started to disappear.
I missed the first part of what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
They don't teach.
Yeah, I was talking to you.
Okay, what I was trying to say, what I was trying to add here is that this is something I saw in my own lifetime, that they had it a little bit in elementary school when I was a little kid, but then it slowly disappeared. They no longer teach students to question things, to question.
No,
They want good little slaves. Why would
my
they
my
do that?
education was 90% memorization.
It's
There was no
it's
individuality or actual
and
growth.
what's the first thing employers look for? If you can problem solve. So they basically teach, and then when you try to like use your own autonomy and problem solving skills in school, they say no, do it by the book. But then when you're trying to get a job, they're like, how can you problem solve this if you didn't help you? It's the complete opposite. So basically, it's like they're training us to fail. They're scum. I'm sorry.
That's
It makes no sense.
that's exactly what
Yeah.
they're doing. They are training us to fail.
Yeah, what were you gonna say, Mel? Yeah, a little joke. Sorry.
Yeah, you had a joke, Mel.
I used to have an online job doing moderation for a very well-known restaurant. And I got a comment by someone, no, she emailed us and she was like, I'm trying to order on my phone and it's saying to call the restaurant. And I am a little bit of a hothead. So my first thought was, you are holding a phone, millennial. You know what else it does? It makes phone calls. Because now this chick, she could have made a phone call, but no, I have to send it to corporate. They have to contact the blah, 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 blah. Then I have to send it back to her about how to order. Then we have to call, like, I'm on my app on my phone. It says to call. Call! Like, so what you guys are saying, they're not teaching you basic skills. I just was like, I can't.
Well, they're quashing out of the younger generation their natural inborn curiosity of the world around them, and they're quashing that tendency to ask questions because they want
supposedly
because they don't want to say that the emperor has no clothes.
Exactly.
That's the last thing they did. It's like when the emperor is running around naked with his junk like flipping about, they just want us to say like, oh, what a great emperor we have. Not like, hey, this guy's an idiot. What's he doing as emperor? It's like, yeah. You know, they don't want, of course the ruling class doesn't want like people say like, hey, like, where do you derive your, it reminds me of that Monty Python scene where he's like, oh, and I plucked the Excalibur out from the rock and the ladies, the mermaids were like singing, and he's like, magic little lady singing and pulling a sword out of a rock isn't a functioning system of government, sir. It's like these rumors and things is like no way to go by. But like we have the same thing in reality right now.
That's why you always have to listen to the jester, the comic. That's where the truth is. It's always there.
And it's like one of the things, if I could teach, you know, a lot, because I'm considered an old lady for Yang Gang standards. I'm 53, but working on a scorecard project with Angelo. Okay, I was actually shocked when he you know said, look, we need your help. Nobody else knows how to research this stuff. I said, what do you mean? They're the tech savvy generation. How can they not know it? I grew up on the losing side of the digital divide, and I came from a background of poverty where I didn't even have access to internet or a computer until my 40s, which is about 10 years ago, right? I said, what do you mean? He said, he goes, no, we don't know how to do it. I said, oh shit. That's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. So one thing I'd like to do is teach other people how to research and how to uncover hidden data, how to ask questions, how to call bullshit, and encourage that every day. So when Ariel or Rhea or somebody, you know, says, I want to challenge something because something is telling me this isn't right, but I don't know how to challenge it, you'll be armed with what you need to challenge it. Like, you will know that this is how you do tangential research to uncover hidden data, call out bullshit, and ask questions, and not put up with any guff from anybody who tells you that you're not supposed to do that. Because guess what? Right. Anybody who tells you that you're not supposed to think, run. Don't walk, run as fast as you can in the opposite direction, as if a lava flow from Mount Vesuvius was on your heels. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that we all need to work on is just our communication skills, number one, because all the information, you can have all the information in the world, but if it's too complicated and if you're shoving it down people's throats and you're not going to listen to their side, like I grew up in the punk rock and skinhead groups, and I had to go and talk to Nazi skinheads. And like, I couldn't walk up to them being like, I hate you, blah, 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 because I didn't want my guys, I didn't want the fight, you know? And so I had to go in and try to like mediate this. And it was pretty, I mean, I never, of course, I'm going to agree with that. But to be able to stand with somebody that believes something in their heart that you just can't, I mean, obviously, it's so horrible. But to learn how to sit and let them talk to you and listen and communicate and try to put some new ideas, but also know how to try to back away. And I mean, we were drinking beers, not fighting.
Well, Mel, that's the whole thing where there was this black guy, I don't remember his name, but like he made friends with KKK members.
Davis, that's
yeah, and that's what we got to do with some Trump people. Let's say Trump does lose, and the Trump people are pissed. We tell them about Andrew Yang, you know. And that sets the stage. We tell them about the UBI candidates because there comes a point where people are like so fuming and so pissed off that they're not using their logic anymore. This is like survival mode.
Well,
and
that's exactly it.
Down and silenced and made to feel that they can't, you know, express their lived real experience. You know, that's what causes that anger to fester. And in reaching out to Trump or former Trump supporters or conservatives or what have you, the thing is, it's like, yes, I believe in telling the truth, but I believe in doing it in a way that says, hey, look, you know what? I'm going to take the position. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You were operating on bad intel. So I can't be upset with you if you were operating on bad intel because it was not your fault. You didn't create the bad intel. You didn't create the propaganda machine that force-fed the bad intel down our collective throats.
Right.
You were the recipient of it.
Right. And that's what happens. That some people are born into this bad intel from cradle to grave.
Yes,
from cradle to you know, and that's the sickening part. But then they feel that something's not right, but they can't articulate it. So the people in power say, "Oh, you can't articulate it, but this is what you're angry at." Well, it's not what they're angry at, but sometimes they convince them it is what they're angry at. And when Andrew came along and said, no, these are really underlying things, he went beyond the surface level. Like the tip of the iceberg was over here, but he went kind of like below that. And now that more people can see below that iceberg, that's when they became former conservatives and former Trump voters, because that intelligence was exposed to them, that knowledge was exposed to them. And if we can just do that on a mass scale, these people, they're not going to stand a chance. They're just not, because everybody's going to know what's really going on.
That's right. I mean, and that's the thing. That's why it's so important to have data is very important. You know, I can't stress it enough. I live in numbers. That's my thing.
And the thing that the liberals did was they just got angry at these conservatives and Trump supporters and yelled and shouted them down and tried to like get into arguments with them and couldn't keep their cool. That is a recipe for disaster, and we're seeing that disaster.
Dr. Jett, what is your degree in? I'm sorry, I've been dying to ask you that.
In officially it's industrial engineering, but really it was management and strategy. And I looked at high-tech companies and how they organize themselves in highly competitive, innovative environments. But
you can get a PhD in.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, Stanford University
I'm
has
just curious.
this
He had to
this
take
PhD
a lot of
organization.
operations research classes and combinatorial analysis, so that means he got to talk to a lot of math majors.
Although actually I got more into, although it's messed up, is because the PhD was in engineering, I eventually was teaching in an engineering school.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and I think I learned more about statistics and operations research by having to teach it than when I had taken a class. Because I had to understand it myself, like what's really going on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think one of the challenges, though, I think there's this emotional dynamic too. When I was teaching in the engineering school through some thing with admissions or something, for some reason, and I had a master's level class that was all male in engineering, and boy, was that different. Having a class like a master's class with all guys, actually they were mostly like white guys too, like and like from the United States, it was a very different experience, and it's almost like there is this issue in our society that we almost have to be part of our development as emotional beings, our emotional intelligence. How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about you? If we don't get that going, we're in trouble. I think that's the reason alone that Trump is so problematic.
Well, I mean,
someone who should have had therapy a long time ago.
right. I mean,
You can't fix that.
our the way like our system works, it just ignores emotion altogether. It's all about status. It's ridiculous. It's like, how much money are you making? Like, what's your job? Not like, oh, how do you feel? It's like, do you have more stuff than me, or do you have a bigger title than me? And like, how can I just get more? And it's disgusting. We're bottom line it right here. I mean,
Well, I think it's almost like, how do we deal with the emotion? I'm thinking of one incident where I was teaching at a school, and there was like an associate dean, and there were students that were there for the summer to take classes. One of the students who was there for the summer, they were all swimming out in the river. He got caught. He got caught in some of the weeds, and he drowned. And I remember speaking to that dean, and my first reaction is like, my God, that's horrible. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, you had to call his parents, and you had to, it's just like, no one prepares professors for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing and actually a lot of jobs are like this. I mean, there's so many jobs where the emotional labor that we have to do to be human, to work with people, work with our team, I'm not even sure if we do it. Yeah, we don't do enough of that.
No, we don't. I mean, Finland has like a national happiness rating thing, and that's the same thing with the American scorecard. What do we have? Oh, this stupid number called the GDP, and we should all be happy that the stock market is up. It's complete bull. It's just like, you might as well wear a jersey and cheer for a sports team, and that's all that we think of like doing well, is putting our jerseys on and cheering for GDP and stock market instead of thinking of all these nuances.
I want to bring another example to bring this home. So like my very first time teaching, I hired undergrads to assist me. And so one day I came in, and one of the undergrads who was like working for me, she was there. It was like an 8 o'clock class, but she was already there, like kind of, and she seemed just kind of quiet. And so she sat in the back and did the role. And then we had like 20 minutes until the next class. And I was like, okay, so the next class we're going to do. And she's like, Professor Jett, my father died last night.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh. I thought her mother was the one that was really sick. Again, she said her father just came home from work, had a heart attack, and just died. And I'm embarrassed to say that, but I'll say it, I'll make myself look bad to show my point, which is, I think I said something to her like, why didn't you tell me? Like, but that didn't, but it turns out that she just, it was such a shock. She just wanted something else, because you can imagine her household the night before was crazy. She actually wanted to come to her job and just be to herself and do it. And then I'm like, but then I have to go to class in the next 50 minutes. So I'm just like, okay, what would you like me to do? Or, how can I help? And she's just like, well, she goes, I think I want to go home now. It's like, we are all human beings. And I think that's what we're forgetting right now. Even in the politics, we're forgetting that, like, there might be some other person, let's say, who disagrees with me completely. Someone could be a total Trumper, but I can still talk to that person and say, hey, even though I think I might, think this person's crazy, I just fully disagree with them, they are still a human being. They still,
Right.
and we're missing that right now.
Yeah, for sure. We're
And
missing
I
that.
think that the world is demanding it. There's been I love like spirituality and philosophy, and there's in the spiritual community, there's a belief that, so we've been in survival mode, obviously, since the beginning of our evolution because we needed to be there to survive. And now that we're at a point where obviously humanity is not going to be wiped off the planet by population in general, if we have distribution problems, but we could be feeding everybody, we could have a sustainable situation going. So at this point, it's time for us to evolve to where we're taking care of ourselves internally and we're exploring. And that's why I think you guys, especially Ria and Ariel, you guys are having that, like, they're not valuing me as a person. They're not looking at me.
Yeah,
They're not,
and look,
but if you think
exactly.
about it, can you imagine your great grandparents saying, I just didn't have time to find myself? Like, other generations weren't having these issues. They were more survival based. So what was going on was more satisfying to them. But now we're having this emotional, spiritual shift. And I think COVID to me is this big symbol of like, we all got pushed into our houses.
If the system doesn't value me, I'm not going to value the system.
Right,
Bottom
how are
line.
you going to eat then? Like that's the thing that we're negotiating here. Because you can say
Right.
that all day. Do you know how to farm? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
can you farm? Can you build your own house? Because then you don't have to value the system.
Well, that's what I was
Unfortunately.
never taught. So if I
But
was taught that, I probably would.
okay, but
But
good luck going and saying I was never taught. I don't value the system. Okay, well, what are you gonna do? Somehow we have to work with what we have and figure this out.
well, we have to kind of like use whatever methods we have to just change it. That's it. And then that came up. And the thing is, look, like with all the technology and phones, and we're all talking on the computers here and all this stuff, why the hell did we not tie our technological advancement to our emotional states and our happiness? That's it's not technology.
It was completely a psychological design. They just don't care about your quality, but they know exactly how to keep you
to
on that
keep you
phone
addicted,
and
but
giving you an emotional response. So, they're
so they
very
can
aware of your emotions. They're just
get the
playing.
money. But the thing is that the smart thing to do now is say like, hey, our tax dollars paid for all of this technology, and no taxation without representation. So if this tech that was paid for by like the taxpayers of the US or the world was through our contributions, it should be contributing to our lives as like a thing. And I think that's the crux of Andrew Yang's argument for the data check and the UBI and all that stuff, and it's a great argument. And that's what we have to push on. We have to say, hey, one of the founding messages of this country was no taxation without representation, and that is exactly what we're getting. We are getting taxed without being represented, because this stuff that's going on right now, it doesn't represent me, it doesn't represent people on RIA or anyone that we're talking to, and even our friends and our neighbors, and we have to drive that point home. Because if we're going to get back to government for the people instead of for the oligarchs, of buying for the people, not of buying for corporations and oligarchs, because that's what's going on right now.
That's what's been going on forever.
Yeah, and we've just been so busy, but it's part of their plan to keep us this busy, to keep us this distracted, because once all that clears out and we're like, what's really going on here, then we'll find all this stuff out, and that's the last thing they want to happen. So that's why they keep us always struggling, I think.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a huge piece in the mix. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, when we clear our head, and then and the best thing for them is for me to be arguing to all of you about Biden or Trump is better. We have not mentioned that. We have not mentioned it on election day. We've not mentioned, oh, I think this is about Biden. I think this is about Trump, because this goes way beyond these two people. This that's a distraction. What we're
Well,
talking about
Well,
right here is important.
yeah, but
You
at the
know.
same time, there's a decision to be made, and it's being
Yeah.
made right now.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
how are
true.
we doing? Does anyone have updates? Does anyone have
Yes,
Biden's
I'm-
winning in Florida, I think, from what you last showed in it.
Yes, and I'm looking at the Hill right now, and it says that the headline says Biden wins Vermont in presidential race.
Surprise!
707.
I know.
Well,
I was like, we
eh.
knew that one. And how many electoral is that? We got two.
Right. But Maine was half and half last time, wasn't it? It's like right next to Vermont.
They're not expecting to know the results today, are they?
Well, it could possibly, yes. I mean, if Biden wins North Carolina or Florida, and it's pretty much going to be a hard way for Trump to ever get back.
And when do we know when we find those out?
Yeah, pretty much. I think within the first hour of the like the results, they start talking about results. Like beginning in a half hour from now, that first hour, we're going to know whether it's those two scenarios I talked about, either the first scenario where it's nail biting close and Trump wins, or the other side where Biden wins and he actually might end up winning a lot more than we think.
Yeah. Well, I just want to go back on something I said. We are talking about Trump and Biden, but we're not talking about it in a way of like it being like an existential crisis or having these rowdy shouting matches with each other. Of who's
Yeah, not
better.
the same old.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing that, I mean, no one really talks about what I think some people thought they were getting with Trump that was positive, which was him being the disruptor.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people, I know a few people who were like definitely like Trump's base in the very beginning. And I describe them as they're conservative white men in rural areas who are having struggles economically. And they had to become independent because they didn't like the Republican Party anymore. They felt like it wasn't representing them. And then here comes Trump. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, he's actually speaking their language. And he looks like he might actually do something. That can like rock the boat.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
that was the positive reason that they thought they were getting with him. And some of them still think that that's who he is.
I had hope for Yang because I thought everybody said Obama wouldn't win and he won, and then everybody said that Trump would never win and he won, and then I thought it would be the same with Yang. Everybody would say that Yang would never win, but the difference is that Obama and Trump came in with a little bit of clout. Like Obama was a former senator, wasn't he?
No, yeah, he was a senator and he had experience. I think.
Yeah.
I think the good and bad about Trump is that he's like in a business world. He's like one of those people who's a great salesman who knows nothing about operations.
Right, exactly.
He knows nothing about how it works, and he just makes stuff up.
So the thing is that Yang didn't come in with the clout that Obama and Trump had coming in. If he did, I think we would have seen him further in the process or even winning. But he's creating that clout, one Yang Speaks podcast, one here, one there, and stuff like that to create the groundwork, hopefully for 2024.
Well, I don't have to roll off, but I want to comment on this thing because I know we could do like something on this completely. I mean, to me, the problem with the Yang campaign was strategy and organization ultimately. You know, so it's like in that sense, it's like, Andrew, call me.
You're right. I agree.
Yeah, it's like he's being known as a celebrity, which is great. Like, like he has like as a personality, but I mean, part of the reason that Biden is where he is he actually does understand how government works, and the mechanisms of it. And I think going forward after a president who had no experience in how government works and didn't really seem to care other than to enrich himself, we need, I think it's almost like we all need a pause. We need someone who actually understands how government works and how it interacts with different things so that we can actually get our pause to make the real transformations that we are desperately
to do. You're 100%. Yeah, that's good. But I think like but the best thing, like the thing is like Yang wasn't just as a presidential candidate. It was like an idea, and these things like live and they leave their resonance and something like that. So then that's why we see all of these UBI candidates running for Congress. And Yang even said on his podcast that if Trump never won, he would have never even run for president. So that tells me that like if Hillary won, would we even know each other and who Yang is like
Probably
right now? You know, I mean, so you gotta think of that silver lining that came in that cloud. I mean, I really think it's a shame that people with like good ideas and who can really change things for the better only like jump out when worse comes to worse. He would have never even run for president. So that tells me that like if Hillary won, would we even know each other and who Yang is like right now? You know,
where's that coming from?
So you gotta think of that.
I hear you again.
I really think it's a shame that. Oh, it's Quintus. Okay, that's fine.
All right, so Quintus has to get going, so let's say our goodbyes to him. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really always a pleasure.
And get good luck, everyone, tonight.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah, get your things in order. This is going to be interesting either way.
All right.
Yeah.
It was great to meet you.
We'll keep in touch. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes.
Mel, you're from Wisconsin?
Oh.
I'm from Wisconsin, but I'm in Puebla, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been in Mexico for 10 years. So, but I'm watching Wisconsin, seeing if we're going to do it tonight. Yeah, it was pretty awful. In 2016, my dad died October 23rd, and then Trump got elected, and I was like, I am taking my happy ass back to Mexico because my dad and country just apparently died. So I was like, oh my God.
Oh wow. What prompted like you were in Mexico before?
Yeah, I had been there for 6 years already. But Wisconsin was cold and miserable, and I couldn't really afford to live anywhere in my own country that was year-round sunshine.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up down here, and it's definitely never been something I regretted. So
is it nice and cheap to like?
Yeah, I mean compared to the States for sure. Like
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I see. What part of Wisconsin? Like Milwaukee or something?
Milwaukee, baby.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So you can just get on a Milwaukee talkie and call anyone you know.
Yeah, they hand those out when you're born in Milwaukee. You get a Milwaukee talkie and old Milwaukee beer.
It's actually I was always thinking it was like so it's actually a thing there.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I don't know what a walkie-talkie is. What is that?
Oh,
we've got a Gandhi statue.
That's funny. Yeah. No, it was just a joke.
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm in California.
What part?
So Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
So not too far from Mexico.
No, but
yeah.
Just in, Illinois becomes the 11th state to legalize recreational marijuana.
Oh,
hey.
I thought you were calling it for Biden or something, but I guess it's just a given. It's funny.
I am thoroughly annoyed now.
Why?
Well, matter. Hopped on, just waiting for people to deliver my new computer. 3 packages to be expected. I only gotten 2, yet all 3 were said to be on the same freaking truck. And now that truck is across town. And I am extremely annoyed.
So like, you can't. I'm gonna be screaming and happy, and all my neighbors are gonna think I'm insane.
Oh.
I'm gonna be like, "Go America!"
But then, do you think that you'd want to come back, or you'd still stay in Mexico? Mexico's pretty good, right?
Yeah, for me, it's really good. Really good.
Yeah.
It's
which is kind of ironic. It's like they'll have to build a wall to keep the Americans out now.
Oh yeah, they say that anytime a gringo does anything bad, they're on Facebook. we'll pay for the wall to keep those assholes out.
Putas.
Yeah.
Putas, yeah.
Yeah.
Cabrones.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Can't say I disagree with that because
Yeah.
Dude, it was
Accurate.
really an interesting experience to be in Mexico while Trump was running, because like one day I was in a lawyer's office with a realtor, and Kelly Osborne had just said like, oh, if you deport all the Mexicans, who's gonna clean your toilets, Trump? And so this real estate agent, I hadn't heard it, and she's like, did you hear what Kelly Osborne said? I'm like, oh, I really like Kelly Osborne. No. And then she says that, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God. Like, I mean, I'm not sitting with a Mexican in America. I'm in fucking Mexico with two more educated people than I am. They speak, perfect two languages perfectly. They're lawyers. And I'm just like, I mean, I didn't like Kelly Osborne. I just was like, oh
She was
my
just
God.
like she's just like, oh, she's good, she's okay. But then
Oh my
before
God. But I feel like I get in any Uber driver or whatever. ¿Qué pasa con Estados Unidos y Trump? And yo no sé, yo aquí el todo tiempo con ustedes. Like, I don't know. I've been here the whole time with you, bad hombres. I don't know. But you always have to apologize for it. The night that he actually got in, me and four other Americans were at a wedding, and like we're at this entire table of Mexicans who are just looking at us with pity and fear that like we're Americans. We've never been looked at like that before. I mean, it was such a
Wow.
surreal situation.
Like I'd say like if I was like a Mexican who want to leave, I'd go to Canada. I wouldn't even think about the United States.
That's what I tell them. I'm like, it's cold, but why would you even want to? And I'm always like, you don't want to go there, but I mean, it's all money. It's just money. They don't want to go there, actually. They don't.
Yeah.
They love their country, and it is better. But unfortunately, it's not better if you were born here and you're trying to work. So,
yeah, interesting dynamics. Yeah. But I mean, like, I hope we see a lot of people like Andrew Yang trying to run in their own countries. In fact, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but we were on a Yang Gang Roundtable podcast. Actually, like, you were, Jacqueline was part of it before death, but it's okay. But the thing is that like, we had politicians as far away as New Zealand talking about universal basic income.
yeah.
So
it's
like, yeah, it's just getting the word's kind of getting out there like internationally, and like people coming from Denmark to canvas to Andrew Yang, if we got him in, we would have out Sweden. Like everybody's talking about like these these Scandinavian countries being so awesome. Like with the Yang presidency, I think like it'd only be a matter of time until we see the same level of awesomeness. I think I think Yang would even be better than these like Scandinavian politicians and people like that. Anyway, we had that kind of shot, but at least as a commentator on CNN, he's kind of like getting his stuff out there. So
is that your kitten? That's your new kitten?
That's cute.
Yeah, little rescue.
A kitten passed the screen, Ariel. No disrespect. It was a kitten.
Yeah, it's cute. I see it.
She's a rescue. Currently getting her bigger and stronger so she can go to her forever home.
Aww.
The little Lilith. She was found in one of her parks, all alone, crying.
And she's so cute.
Mel, do they know about Yang in Mexico, or like
my friends do, because
cool.
I was sitting preaching in taco shops in Mexico about this guy, and they're like, whatever. But it was interesting because I was like, can you imagine if they did that here? Because we have the tax here that he was talking about, the value. Yep. And I was like, if they just gave it, and right away they're like, never, never. It's really sad because they're so down and have no faith in their government. They have no faith that they can ever change anything. It's really a tough
That's
dynamic.
part of the problem. It's just like everybody just thinks that way, so nothing ever happens. But it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. So if you're gonna think that you're not worth it, then how would you ever even think that like other people? It's like everybody has to kind of like think that they're worth it before anything ever changes. And then believe me, if you nag enough times, things usually come through, because you just have to be like a thorn in a person's side long enough for them to change something. And I have seen that happen. Yeah.
You're hungry, Annette?
Yeah. Hungry.
I'm gonna
me
have to
too.
scoot here in a minute and actually get my computer set up, so I'm gonna have to go too.
Cool. Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, this seems like a good time to close her down. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. We didn't really get into the election as much as I thought we would, but that's quite all right, because all the other conversation was
I think
fantastic.
Our conversation was more
It was
important.
on point, though. It was completely on point.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, totally.
Because once this election ends, this is the kind of conversations everybody should be having, not just us. You know, we should not limit the conversation to just who's there to vote for. We should say, like, what can we create to make things better, and then put that on the ballot, and then have conversations with people about it.
Don't eat the mic.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was also great to see some Yang Gang faces live. This was really nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I will. I had to cut down my paid StreamYard, so I'm limited to only 20 hours per month on the free version. So, but yeah, if anybody, like, maybe let's get together after the election is actually solidified and we know who won and who lost, and it's confirmed, and maybe we can talk again.
Right, for all those people feeling politically homeless, we just like preach the Yang gospel to them and see what happens, whether it's buying people or Trump people or burning people, and just keep growing.
Well, hopefully we'll also be able to get in the visionary when he is actually awake and able to talk.
Right.
Get his thoughts on things. So I know I touched someone with his stuff, but if I want to talk about my stuff, because, I mean, come on. I hope I have some value. I hope I have some value in what I say.
Sure.
Jacqueline, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get to talk again.
Well,
yeah.
All right. Well, Yang Gang love, everybody.
Yeah.
Yang Gang.
Okay, got it. Bye.
Adios,
Right.
Mel.
Bye, guys.
Adios.
party on, dudes.
Yeah.
And be excellent.